I was born in 1974, and almost immediately I jumped on the social equality train. I've always believed that, having been born a cis white male, for the most part, I have to treat everyone just as well as I would want to be treated myself. People of color, LGBTQ, women, doesn't matter. Everyone is equal in God's eyes. Everybody is equal in society's eyes. We all have to be treated the same. And for the love of God, we're all Americans first, right? I think one of the reasons I feel the way I feel is because every time I tuned into late night television, we tended to be facing this stuff head on. Late 60s, early 70s, you had shows like All in the Family. Mid 80s and early 90s, you had shows like The Cosby Show. And all of these shows featured this stuff relatively in a positive light. There was still plenty of representation back in the day as well. I mean, you had take Elton John, for example, but there was a big difference between Elton John and a lot of modern day singers. Elton John was a talented singer who just happened to be gay. He wasn't a gay man who just happened to be a talented singer. It wasn't the core or the crux of his personality. It's just part of who he was. Don't get me wrong, these TV shows didn't get it right 100% of the time. Sometimes they were a little awkwardly racist or treated trans people or gay people as if like there was something to panic over. But the overall message most of the time was the message I have today, which is, gay people, LGBTQ people, we're all just people. And we deserve to be treated like people. These days, we will see a ton of characters that the very core of who and what they are is they happen to be a person of color. They happen to be LGBTQ. But I still think the most beloved and accepted characters are the ones that are well-written, well-developed, just a good character. Just a fun, entertaining character that happens to be trans or happens to be gay. It's not the core of what they are. It's just a part of who they are. A cool part, but just a small part nonetheless. When it comes to representation in video games or representations in any form of media, I think it's important. I think it's cool. But I also think that when it is poorly written, when it is shoehorned in, it does more harm than good. And I see a lot of the things that Disney is doing, Marvel is doing, video game companies are doing, television shows are doing. I feel like when these characters the major thing about them is that they are LGBTQ and there's nothing else interesting about them. Or they are poorly written and they say things that no human would ever actually say. They become unrelatable and uninteresting, and that's what upsets people the most. You see it upsetting a lot of, conservatives and cis white people, but believe it or not, you even see it upsetting people who are hoping for that representation as well. Social media would have you believe that when Disney tries something like Miss Marvel, or HBO tries something like the new Velma show, the thing that we are upset about is the representation on screen, that we can't relate to women of color, but I don't think that's the reality. When a show is well written, well scripted, well cast, well directed, well filmed, nobody seems to care, other than a handful of bigots, that representation is there in a negative light. If it's well written and it's well done, then people who want to feel represented do feel represented, and everyone else just goes along and enjoys the thing for the wonderful piece of entertainment that it is. But when a piece of entertainment relies almost exclusively on that diversity, on that representation, it has to be well written, and when it isn't, boy, the internet is definitely going to let you know. The downside to that is they have this perfect shield that says you're just mad at the representation, when in reality, we're just mad that the thing was bad. There have been plenty of shows that have tons of representation, such as Atlanta, that completely transcend the fact that they are mostly there to represent people because they are so well written. They're cast with people like Donald Glover, who everybody loves, and the show is just, it's a masterpiece. You can't not like Atlanta unless you're an extremely bigoted person, and even they are going to say, at least it was interesting. Bayonetta is another perfect example of a video game that doesn't seem to really care that their character is LGBTQ. The people that want to care about it have every right to, and the people who are not that interested in it, don't care about their representation, get to enjoy a well-written, very entertaining, over-the-top video game that's fun to play. And everybody wins in that situation. There's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, these days we see a lot of pieces of media where they start with the representation and really don't add much to it. I take the Lord of the Rings Amazon show. If the biggest thing you can say about that show is that we made some of the dwarves black, then guess what? You probably should go back to the writing room and do things over again. Well-written shows and video games and books does a wonder in helping people understand the plights of people that they cannot normally relate to. But when a TV show gets it wrong, and recently they get it wrong more often than not, they end up frustrating people, annoying people, and worst of all, emboldening bigots, giving them a talking point about woke culture and becoming anti-woke, and giving Fox News and all of the people that watch it all the ammo they need to tear apart your show and the culture that you are trying to represent. And as we see more and more shows like this, and more movies, and more games, I'm often wondering, are they actually trying to represent those people? Or are they just trying to make things worse? When people create these shows, I think they probably have the best of intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But as someone who fears the ruling elite and fears the people who have all the money, I often wonder if they are trying to make shows like this purposely controversial and purposely bad so that we focus on these things and fight amongst each other. A populace that is divided is much easier to control and rule, and I almost wonder if these terrible TV programs are part of that plan. As far left as I am, as loving and as accepting as I try to be, I'm finally at a point now where when I hear about a new Marvel hero or a video game character, and I very immediately learn about their diversity before I learn anything else about the character, I go into it with extremely lowered expectations. You should be able to say more about the character in your show or movie than they happen to be black, they happen to be gay. That is such a small part of a person's identity. Why are you trying to make it their entire identity? That's nonsensical to me, and I probably won't watch it. It might just be my perspective, but I want to know if you agree. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're straight or white or black or purple. I don't care. I don't care. I want to know, are you an interesting person to talk to? Are you fun to be around? Is it fun to watch a show that you are in? Did you write or create something good? Did you make a game that's fun to play? I don't care otherwise. It is such a small part to me, the color of your skin, the way that you vote, the person you lay down next to in bed at night means almost nothing to me. So maybe I'm the one that's wrong here, but I do think the world functions pretty well when we don't give a shit about those types of things and we treat each other as people. That's just one man's opinion, and I know I could be wrong. You'll let me know down in the comments section below. But as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I will speak with you again soon.